Hello, this is Matthew Robert Payne. This is Tolu Sarah Johnson with me. This is chapter 13.
Thank you. Chapter 13, this is where you realize healing is still a journey. Not everything is instantly resolved. We've covered a little bit of this in the previous chapters we've been to so far. But I remember few times that I spoke to my husband and he mentioned that Tolu, I had to go through a series of therapy with Catherine Kuma because that's what Catherine Kuma does in Ever to help people heal from all the pain and the resentment I had towards God. Just backing a word Apostle Paul said about sometimes you might have some anger rather towards God because you think, God, why didn't you help me? Why did you allow this to happen to me? So my husband had those things and he had to go through that healing. And I also vividly remember when he said every time he met Jesus, he would just be crying profusely because it would be like the pain is coming out of him, experiencing healing. One of the things as we're writing this book, I'm asking myself, Tolu, why even bother write about Reframe ever? What's the point of writing it? Why do you want to go through this arduous task of going through 40 chapters? But what I remember immediately is, well, there might be one or two people out there that this could bless because when my husband did go to heaven and somebody gave me a book on heaven, everything was all smiley, smiley about the ice cream you could lick, about how your house is beautiful. Why these are all good, there's more to heaven than understanding that you are going to go to heaven to is going to be like a paradise where you're going to have wherever you want. Heaven is way, way deeper than that. So hopefully this is able to give you a little bit of meat into what heaven is all about. Because we've been taught to believe that the moment you arrive, everything will be healed. Even I didn't even know you carry pain to heaven. But that's not the case. Heaven doesn't mean immediate restoration, complete emotional healing, total inner peace instantly. No, they take process, they take unfolding, they take journey that you have to go through. I remember Princess Diana saying, maybe I don't know, maybe 6 months or a year ago, she was saying, Tolu, you see the pain of what happened to me on earth. I still go through it. Hopefully she will be fully healed by now, but she still feels the pain of what happened between herself and the child. Especially seeing Queen Camilla now sitting on the throne. Thank God she is a queen herself in heaven. But if you're not a queen, you think that person robbed you of what belongs to you. And there might still be Matthew, what are you doing there? Matthew, you are distracting me. Just get your cup up, like, yeah. So there might still be some healing process that you still need to go through. But it's good that heaven doesn't rush you. Heaven takes time. They take you can take as long as you want. And healing does not disappear. It continues. That's what I've come to believe. Do you think one can ever be fully healed? Yes, I think you could get to a stage where you become fully healed. But I guess the time it takes for each person will differ. The wounds do not vanish. They don't dissolve instantly. They don't get erased. They don't become irrelevant. They are met fully. And I think even though you are healed, you will still have the marks on you. It's just like, I think it was God that said, Apostle Paul, I still got all the scars, the marks of all the things that the beatings he experienced while he was on earth, and now it shines gloriously in heaven. So even if you're healed, I believe the marks will still always be there forever and ever. But of course, if you ask Jesus now, Jesus always says, "Told it's only 6 hours on the cross. You guys just leave me alone and stop thanking me for the cross and take your cross. But I guess Jesus still carries the scar of that cross around. And that's a reminder of the pain that he went through. I don't know whether it was Matthew that said there's a hole in Jesus's hand by the wrist or something like that. So do you think Jesus has forgotten the pain he endured on the cross? No, it's not forgotten, but he doesn't want you to continue to repeat the same thing over and over again to remind him what he already knew. Because he did not die on the cross so that you can continue to thank him for the cross. He died on the cross so that you can take your own cross as well and take your responsibility. So, of course, I now believe that even if the pain goes, I will probably still have the scar of my journey on her, but I'll be able to see it in a beautiful way. I'll be able to see what God was trying to bring out of the whole experience, all of the pain, all of the struggles, all of the challenges that I've experienced. That is not for nothing. They're going to be useful. And recently I was speaking to somebody. I said, if I have a good understanding of life that you experience as an adult, I don't think I would have decided to have children. I'm serious. Like, this world is so dangerous now that I ask myself, why did I bring children to this world? And for some of you might say, Tolu, why are you thinking like that? Because I'm not sure, but I guess those children come because God had a purpose for them. So I just have to be reassured in that God brings us here for a purpose, because sometimes a lot of us think we are here by mistake, especially the route we came to, like someone that was raped, and you was, as a result of rape, you might be thinking your entrance into this world wasn't planned. Just like Matthew's dad always tells him that you were 2 minutes pleasure. Is that what your dad used to tell your mom?
2 minutes, 3 minutes pleasure for 18 years of hassle.
Imagine if you hear that, you just think that you must have been here by mistake. So everything is planned. As much as sometimes I feel for my children, I feel for the pain, for this, for the challenges they will have to go through, and I understand what God feels about. Why I'm always trying to say, God, I just want you to be happy, and God always tells me I can't be happy because I see my children going through suffering. Even though my children has not really experienced that depth of suffering, but losing your dad is a suffering. Like having other children come to school with their dad and they don't have their dad, it is. Like they do grandparents' day in their school where grandparents are invited. My children don't have grandparents. They don't even have a relationship with any grandparent because the daddies are in heaven. My dad and Ben's dad is in heaven. And then the mummies are nowhere to be found. So when you remember all of those things, you just think, what is the purpose? But I've learned to rely that God has got a goal for us, and irrespective of the pain that we pass through here, when we get to heaven, the healing will have to continue. But I guess we'll all get to a stage where we'll be able to say, yes, I'm fully healed. I'm much better. And I can look at that pain now and see what God was doing through that. So pain is revisited. Pain is revisited in heaven, but it is not relieved. This is important because healing does not mean ignoring what happened. It means understanding it differently through a new lens, a lens of truth, a lens of love, a lens of clarity. So many wounds come from misunderstanding of what we believed, what we assumed, what we carried alone. People have got different wounds that they are carrying, but healing comes when truth enters, when you finally see what really happened, what was never your fault, what God was doing, even when you don't or when you couldn't see it. So you are not behind. You need to understand healing is not a race. Growth is not measured by speed. Everyone's journey is different. So take your time, because Papa is not measuring how fast you heal when you get to heaven. Is with you all along. And the light that needs to fall away is I should be healed already. I know that's so, I don't know why I'm saying this. Maybe there's someone that is thinking, maybe in heaven, thinking I should be healed now. No, it's okay for you to take your time. God is not rushing you, because healing is not a performance, it is a process, it is a relationship, it is an encounter that people have to experience. So, what this revealed about God is, it's not impatient. It's not demanding instant change from you. It's not frustrated by your process. It's patient, present, and deeply invested in your wholeness. And the shift begins here when you stop expecting instant resolution. I am someone that never had patience before when it comes to getting things, doing things. I'm always looking for fast route. But sometimes God says, no, Tolu, I'm the one in charge of this one. When it came to developing spiritually, I got to learn that there was no shortcut. You just have to go through that journey that God has prepared for you. And now I don't expect instant resolution anymore. I don't expect immediate perfection anymore. I don't expect overnight transformation anymore. I begin to embrace this ongoing healing, this gradual restoration, this deep lasting change. And I hope that anyone that comes through this will be able to be reassured that we all carry our luggages and baggages on heart. We all carry our traumas. But heaven will welcome you home and will help you to heal. Especially, I cannot forget the day that God said, Tolu, a lot of people that commit suicide, that people think they go to hell, they arrive, a lot of them arrive in heaven, and we are helping them, we are supporting them to go through all of the odds, all of the challenges that they've gone through. Because coming into this world itself, you need to be congratulated for coming, because it is really a tough place to come to. And sometimes maybe the children that were aborted, maybe they were grateful to God that they didn't have to experience it. Because I remember Matthew's young, is the older sister, two sisters, the one that we spoke to said, although when I see what Matthew has gone through, I thank God I never had to come to the wall. So I guess God sees it like your bravery, your courage, all the journey that you've been through. He's even proud of you. That homeless man that you think that God has forgotten you is proud of you and is waiting for you in heaven to restore you fully as long as it can take. So I hope you've been blessed. I'll pass on to Matthew.
So Tulu was mentioning there that certain people are suicide and end up in heaven. Can you imagine? Can you imagine being in a place where you lacked hope, and the only place you got hope was killing yourself? Killing yourself gave you hope that you could be free of living with the pain that you're living with in life. And can you imagine killing yourself and then ending up in heaven, a place of happiness and joy and good living, and everyone seems to be happy, and you're full of trauma and pain and hurt and struggling. And so Catherine Kuhlman, a famous healer in Christian circles, Pentecostal healer, she's a person who does personal healing with people and therapy with people, and she helps people who are suicide victims transition into heaven. And she stays with a person maybe a month, 6 months, a year, 2 years, however long it takes them to develop and acclimatize for heaven. So those people arrive in heaven with trauma, and so does everyone. Everyone in this world has a way of dealing with their personal trauma, and you're going to have an opportunity when you get to heaven to get rid of that, to keep the good habits, to keep the parts of you that are good parts and good responses to who you are, but get rid of the destructive sort of parts of yourself. There's no drugs in heaven, but I have been told there's alcohol, but you don't live a life of a drunk in heaven or a drug addict. So some people, if that's what they're used to on earth, coping with their pain with drugs and alcohol. When they get to heaven, they haven't got that substance, so they'll need some healing. They'll need something to fill in that gap that they used to fill with drugs or alcohol. So um, God was saying, or one of the saints was saying, I don't know who it was, that I'm such a mess, so broken inside. Tolu calls me Humpty Dumpty. I've got all the king's horses and all the king's men couldn't put him together again, and I've got a whole lot of alters, a whole lot of alternate personalities. I'm really broken as a person. And God was saying, when I get to heaven, I'm just going to basically be put in hospital, and there's going to be therapy done on me for a number of weeks or years or whatever. And I'm going to take people that love me just to minister to me and love me. And I'm going to go through some therapy. So um, once again, I'll repeat here, and we may repeat it later on, and that heaven isn't a car wash. You don't
Mm.
arrive in heaven and become someone with no pain, with right theology, with no past, with no memories. You bring all of who you are to heaven. You become your spiritual maturity, your spiritual intimacy, your rewards in heaven. Everything is different about heaven. So you can transform in heaven. There are people who will reach out to you and help you heal, but you can remain unhealed. That's your
Mm.
choice. In free will, you're allowed to be stuck in your old theology. You're allowed to be stuck in your pain. You're allowed
Mm.
to live in heaven in a wounded lifestyle and operate with a wounded personality. Everything is your free will, and certain people choose not to heal. Certain people choose not to change their theology. Certain people choose to live the way they want to live. And that's another thing we'll cover later, but the free will exists in heaven. You're not forced to do anything. So I hope you enjoyed that.
Yeah, thank you. And it will be good to ask Catherine Kuma to speak to this chapter.
So I was a famous healer on earth. I preached and did signs and wonders and miracles and healings, and I operated in God's power. So if there's no physical healing needed in heaven, if people with no legs appear with legs in heaven, people with bad hearts appear with a good heart in heaven, if there's no need for physical healing in heaven, I had to be repurposed and redesigned for my role in heaven. And thankfully, I've got a big heart, a kind heart, a heart full of compassion and love. And God was able to repurpose me as a spiritual healer and a therapist. I work mainly with people who are suicide, but I do take on other cases. So Tolu was right that I ministered to a husband, and the reason I ministered to him was he was going to ascend to a very powerful position in heaven, and we needed a quick job done. You
Wow.
remember when I shared that Matthew's mum had a quick job done with her theology? It was
Yeah.
like an advanced job that was done. That theology could have taken years and years to transform, but we had to do a quick job because she was talking to Matthew. She had to be on the same page as Matthew. She couldn't keep on having arguments with him. And
Wow.
we had to transform her for Matthew's sake. And the same reason I did a quick job on Ben, because he had to be transformed and he had to take up a position of leadership, and we couldn't afford all that bitterness and resentment to stay there. So there's seven realms in heaven, but then there's realms above that from realm 18 to 21. And Ben arrived in realm 19. And so he couldn't get to realm 21, and realm 21 is where God lives. And so he wanted to meet with God face to face, and he had to have that healed. So I did extensive healing on Ben, and he had valid concerns and valid memories and valid things where God had hurt him and God in his opinion, had used him and abused him, and they're not true. But what's true to you is true to you, you know,
Yeah.
and what you perceive is real, even if it's not true, even if it's a lie from the enemy, it's still the truth, if the enemy calls you a loser and everyone in your life has called you a loser, it may not be true that you're a loser, but to you it is.
Mm.
And that's what has to be healed. It does you no good being told that you're not a loser because you've heard it 100 times or maybe 1,000 times. You've got to get to the root of that, and that's what we did with Ben.
Wow. Thank you, Catherine. Wow. To close this chapter, healing does not end when you enter heaven. It continues, not as struggle, but as restoration. Not rushed, but intentional. Not forced, but relational. And when you begin to see that, you stop rushing to be fixed and you begin to trust the process of being made whole. God bless.
God bless you, everybody.